Did you know that nearly 48 million Americans get sick from foodborne illnesses every year, and over 3,000 of them die? Shockingly, many of them are seniors. As we age, our immune systems naturally weaken, digestion slows, and our ability to fight off bacteria declines. But what if I told you that many of these illnesses don't begin at restaurants or grocery stores, but right inside your own home, inside the refrigerator you've always trusted to keep your food safe? You see, we're often told that cold equals clean, that the fridge is our best defense against spoilage. But for older adults, that belief can be dangerously misleading. In fact, you might be hiding something in your fridge right now that seems healthy but could be hurting your joints, your brain, or even your heart. If you're like me, you've probably tossed bananas, onions, or peanut butter into the fridge without giving it a second thought. I used to do the same, until I watched my father, in his 70s, struggle to twist open a jar of refrigerated peanut butter. His hands, stiff from arthritis, trembled with the effort. That moment stayed with me. It made me realize that some of our most familiar kitchen habits, the ones we never question, can quietly chip away at our independence and well-being. Some foods lose their nutrients when chilled. Others become a breeding ground for harmful bacteria. For seniors, food poisoning isn't just a stomach ache. It can lead to confusion, fatigue, dehydration, or even hospitalization. And here's the part no one talks about. You may not even know it's happening. The damage builds slowly, silently, over time. So if you've ever stored food in the fridge just to be safe, or aren't sure what really belongs there, stick with me until the end. What you learn today could help protect your body, your clarity, and your quality of life. If you've ever done this, or if you're realizing you might be, go ahead and comment, "I've done this too," down below. You're not alone. And if this is opening your eyes already, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more health tips made just for seniors. Now, let's talk about the very first food item that most people refrigerate but absolutely shouldn't. It's creamy, familiar, and feels like a comfort from childhood. But when stored the wrong way, it can cause more harm than help. Let's talk about peanut butter. We've trusted our refrigerators for decades, often without question. Cold means safe. At least, that's what we've always believed. But the truth is, not everything belongs behind that cold door. In fact, some of the most common foods you've been refrigerating for years could actually be doing more harm than good, especially for those of us over 60. I used to think I was preserving food. But over time, I realized I was also preserving pain, inflammation, and nutrient loss, all because I didn't know better. So in this next part, we're going to uncover 3 everyday foods that should never be kept in the fridge, and why letting go of this habit could protect your hands, your heart, and your memory. 1. Peanut butter. Let's start with something warm, familiar, and trusted: peanut butter. For many of us over 60, it's more than a spread. It's a symbol of ease and self-sufficiency, a protein-packed comfort from our childhood that's followed us into our golden years. But what if I told you that the very way we store this beloved staple might be quietly working against us? You might be hiding something in your fridge right now that seems healthy, but could be hurting you every single day. I've seen it firsthand. My father, who struggled with arthritis in his hands, used to keep his peanut butter in the refrigerator, thinking it would stay fresh longer. But every morning, I watched him fight to scoop out a rock-hard clump from the jar, wincing with pain. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just an inconvenience. It was a daily attack on his dignity and comfort. You see, when peanut butter is refrigerated, the oils, especially the heart-healthy monounsaturated fats, begin to harden. The smooth, creamy texture turns stiff and unyielding, making it incredibly difficult to spread. For someone with reduced grip strength or joint inflammation, it transforms a simple sandwich into a frustrating, even painful, task. But this goes deeper than texture. Repeatedly moving the jar from cold to room temperature can accelerate oxidation, breaking down those beneficial fats and turning what was once anti-inflammatory into a potential trigger for more inflammation. For seniors already managing heart disease or high blood pressure, this matters more than we think. On top of that, peanut butter contains vitamin E, an antioxidant critical for protecting our brains from cognitive decline and cellular damage. But cold storage, especially over time, can degrade this vital nutrient. That means the very thing we're relying on to support memory and mental clarity is being diminished, quietly, without warning. And then there's the emotional toll. Food isn't just fuel. At this stage of life, it's part of our rhythm, our independence, our joy. When something as simple as opening a jar becomes a struggle, it chips away at that joy. I've spoken with older adults who stopped making their favorite toast in the morning, not because they lost their appetite, but because their fingers couldn't twist the lid or spread the contents. And that's not just a loss of flavor, it's a loss of self. The good news is, the fix is simple. Store your peanut butter in a cool, dry place outside the refrigerator, tightly sealed and out of direct sunlight. This preserves its creamy texture, protects its nutrients, and ensures that it's always ready to serve, not fight against you. If you've ever struggled with refrigerated peanut butter or thought it tasted off, you're not alone. Comment below and let us know. That's happened to me. You may be surprised how many others are nodding along. And now that we've unmasked the hidden risks in this humble jar, let's move on to another pantry favorite that quietly causes even more trouble when stored the wrong way. It's sharp, flavorful, and the foundation of countless home-cooked meals. But under the chill of the fridge, it turns into a source of mold, nutrient loss, and digestive distress. Let's talk about onions. 2 onions. Now let's turn to something even more deceptive, onions. Humble, everyday, and essential to flavoring the meals we grew up on. Onions are the quiet workhorses of the kitchen. But here's what most people don't realize. When you store whole onions in the refrigerator, you're not preserving freshness. You may be inviting in mold, bacteria, and nutrient loss. And for seniors, this seemingly innocent mistake can carry surprising consequences. Why? Because onions weren't made for cold, humid environments. Their papery skins are designed to protect them in dry, open air, not in the damp confines of a crisper drawer. I'll never forget one afternoon when I helped a retired couple sort through their fridge during a nutrition coaching session. Their onions looked fine at first, but inside the layers were soft spots, a musty smell, and visible patches of mold. And the worst part? They'd been using those onions in their soups and sautés, unaware of the risk. When onions are exposed to cold and moisture, their natural structure starts to break down. The layers soften, and moisture seeps in, creating the perfect environment for mold spores and harmful bacteria, including strains like E. coli and Listeria. These invisible threats are dangerous for anyone, but for older adults with weakened immune defenses or sensitive digestive systems, they can lead to days of illness, joint inflammation, or worse. But it's not just a microbial issue, it's a nutritional one, too. Onions are rich in quercetin, a powerful flavonoid known to reduce inflammation, support cardiovascular health, and ease arthritis symptoms. But when stored improperly, quercetin and other nutrients degrade rapidly, leaving you with a food that no longer delivers the healing power it once did. You think you're doing something good for your heart, but the benefits may already be slipping away before they reach your plate. And there's something else, something we don't always talk about: the emotional impact. When food you trust suddenly smells strange, tastes dull, or leaves your fridge with that unshakable sour odor, it's not just your appetite that suffers. It's your sense of confidence in your kitchen. And at this stage in life, when so much else feels uncertain, our routines around food and cooking are more than habits. They're a source of identity and calm. The fix? Thankfully, it's easy. Store whole onions in a dry, dark, and well-ventilated space, like a basket or mesh bag in your pantry. Give them space to breathe, just as they were meant to. And once they're cut, store them in a sealed glass container in the fridge and use within a couple of days. Trust me, your taste buds and your immune system will thank you. Now, if you've ever opened your fridge to find a strange onion smell or slimy layers, don't be embarrassed. Comment below with, "I've smelled that too." You're not alone. And now that we've uncovered the truth about onions, let's move on to another fruit that's just as familiar, maybe even more so, but even more misunderstood when it comes to storage. Sweet, soft, and beloved for generations, bananas may be comforting to eat, but chilling them could be destroying what makes them so good for your brain and body. Let's talk about bananas. 3. Bananas. Let's now talk about one of the most beloved fruits across generations, bananas. Soft, naturally sweet, and easy to digest, bananas are often the first fruit we give to our grandchildren, and one of the last we hold on to ourselves. For seniors, they're more than a snack. They're comfort, routine, and reliable nourishment. But there's one mistake I see over and over again, even among health-conscious older adults: storing bananas in the refrigerator. At first glance, it might seem harmless. You think, I'll keep them fresh a little longer. But here's the truth. Bananas are tropical fruits. They were never designed for cold storage. When you refrigerate them, something subtle but damaging starts to happen. The peel darkens rapidly, sure, but the real problem lies inside. Cold temperatures shut down the enzymes responsible for ripening. The result? A banana that looks ripe on the outside, but is firm, bland, or even bitter on the inside. That's not just a bad bite, it's a loss of nutrients you can't see. I once had a client tell me, my bananas just don't taste the same anymore. When I asked how they stored them, the answer was clear. And what they were losing wasn't just flavor, it was function. You see, bananas are packed with dopamine and catechins, two powerful antioxidants that help reduce inflammation and support brain function, especially in older adults. Dopamine, in particular, plays a role in mood stability and cognitive clarity. But these compounds are highly sensitive to cold. When bananas are chilled, their antioxidant levels begin to drop significantly, leaving you with a fruit that no longer provides the mental and emotional support you thought it did. And then there's the hidden risk. As bananas overripen in the fridge, moisture can build up under the peel, particularly around the stem, creating an environment where mold can quietly grow. That mold isn't always visible, but it's there. And for seniors with compromised immune systems, consuming spoiled fruit, even unknowingly, can trigger digestive distress, inflammation, or worse. Now, let's talk emotionally for a moment. Bananas are tied to memories, breakfast with our kids, snacks on long walks, the comforting scent of banana bread in the oven. But when something so familiar starts tasting off, or makes you feel bloated or unwell afterward, it creates a disconnect. We begin to lose trust in the foods that once made us feel grounded and cared for. But the solution here is simple and natural. Store bananas at room temperature, ideally on a hanging hook or in a fruit bowl with good air circulation. If they ripen too fast, peel and freeze them in slices for smoothies or baking. This way, you preserve their nutrients and their flavor while honoring your body's changing needs. If you've ever pulled a banana from the fridge and wondered why it felt strange or tasted dull, drop a comment below. I thought it was just me. Because I promise, it's not just you. And now that we've explored the foods that lose their value when refrigerated, let's flip the script. Because some foods? They're only safe when kept cold, and when stored wrong, they can become dangerous in ways you'd never expect. Let's begin with a category that sits in nearly every fridge, but is often misunderstood: cooked meats and leftovers. We've spent the last few minutes uncovering the hidden risks of refrigerating the wrong foods. But now, let's flip the conversation, because there are also foods that absolutely must be kept cold. For older adults, failing to refrigerate these items properly doesn't just mean spoiled flavor. It can lead to dangerous bacteria, inflammation flare-ups, and even hospitalization. This next section might surprise you, because these aren't exotic or unfamiliar items. They're the food sitting in your kitchen right now, things you likely eat every week. And yet, when stored the wrong way, they can quietly become a serious health hazard. Let's start with something you probably reheated last night or saved for today's lunch: cooked meats and leftovers. 4. Cooked meats and leftovers. Let's begin this section with something we all rely on: cooked meats and leftovers. Whether it's Sunday's roast, a bowl of stew, or a simple chicken breast from last night's dinner, leftovers represent comfort, resourcefulness, and independence, especially in our later years. They help stretch a budget, reduce waste, and give us control over what we eat. But here's the truth many people overlook. If you don't refrigerate cooked meats and leftovers quickly and properly, they can become dangerous fast. I've seen this firsthand. One of my older clients, a widower in his late 70s, liked to cook large meals and save portions for later. One day, he told me about feeling off for days, fatigue, joint pain, a low-grade fever. He thought it was just age. But after some digging, we found the culprit: a plate of beef stew he had left out just overnight. What he didn't realize, and what many seniors don't know, is that bacteria like Listeria, Clostridium perfringens, and Salmonella start multiplying the moment cooked food begins to cool at room temperature. Within just 2 hours, bacteria levels can reach a point where eating that food becomes a real health risk. And unlike spoiled milk or moldy bread, these bacteria don't change the look or smell of your food. You won't know they're there until your body pays the price. For younger people, food poisoning might just mean a rough day or two. But for seniors, it's often far more serious. With a slower immune response, lower stomach acid, and chronic health conditions in play, foodborne illness can lead to confusion, dehydration, inflammation, and even hospitalization. I've seen cases where a simple leftover meal led to weeks of health setbacks. And it's not just the short-term danger. Infections like these can worsen arthritis, flare up autoimmune conditions, and increase cardiovascular stress, especially for those already managing chronic pain or weak kidneys. But this isn't about fear, it's about awareness. And fortunately, the solution is simple. Always transfer cooked food to shallow containers and place it in the refrigerator within 2 hours, or within 1 hour if the room is warm. Label it with the date and try to eat it within 3 to 4 days. Beyond that, even if it looks fine, the risks are no longer worth it. And if you're ever unsure, don't taste it. When in doubt, throw it out. It's better to waste a meal than jeopardize your health. If you've ever left food out longer than you meant to, or reheated something and thought, this smells okay, I'll risk it, comment below. I've done that too. There's no shame in learning, and you're not alone. Now that we've covered leftovers and their hidden dangers, let's move on to something even more common in senior kitchens: dairy products. Creamy, nostalgic, and comforting, but also one of the fastest to spoil and the most sensitive to temperature shifts. Let's talk about why milk, cheese, and yogurt must always be kept cold, and what can happen when they're not. 5. Dairy products: milk, yogurt, cheese. Now let's talk about something that feels like a warm hug from the past: dairy products. A glass of milk with breakfast, a slice of cheese with crackers, or a spoonful of yogurt before bed. These simple foods carry more than just flavor, they carry memories. But here's what many older adults don't realize. Dairy is one of the most delicate food groups in your refrigerator, and if not kept properly cold, it can spoil fast and trigger far more than just a sour taste. In fact, milk, cheese, and yogurt are breeding grounds for bacteria when left out for even a few hours. And the effects aren't always obvious. One of my clients, a sweet woman in her late 60s, once told me she loved sipping warm milk in the evening. She'd leave it out on the counter for a couple of hours to take the chill off. What she didn't know is that this small habit allowed harmful bacteria like Listeria and E. coli to multiply silently. She thought her worsening joint pain and constant bloating were signs of aging. But the truth was sitting on her kitchen counter. Dairy may be full of nutrients, calcium, protein, vitamin D, and B12, all of which are essential as we get older, but those very nutrients also make it a magnet for bacterial growth. And as we age, our stomach acid becomes less acidic, our gut barriers thinner, and our immune response slower. What might give a 30-year-old mild discomfort could leave a senior in bed for days. And here's the part that makes dairy even more dangerous. You can't always see or smell the spoilage. The milk might still look white. The yogurt might taste normal. But the damage is already brewing. In some cases, spoiled dairy can lead to inflammation flare-ups, joint stiffness, digestive distress, or even dehydration from vomiting or diarrhea. For anyone managing arthritis, cardiovascular issues, or kidney concerns, this is a storm your body doesn't need. Milk, a beloved comfort in our later years, but just one oversight, and it could trigger days of fatigue, pain, or worse. That's a line I use often when teaching caregivers. And it's true. The cost of improperly stored dairy isn't just physical, it's emotional. When a food you once loved starts making you feel unwell, you start avoiding it, fearing it, even resenting it. That's not how nourishment should feel. The solution is simple: refrigerate all dairy immediately after use. Don't leave it out while you cook. Don't trust your nose to tell you it's still okay. Keep your fridge at 40 degrees Fahrenheit, 4 degrees Celsius, or lower. Store items in airtight containers, and always check expiration dates. I often tell my patients, your gut doesn't bounce back the way it used to, so treat it with care. If you've ever left milk or yogurt out longer than you meant to, or noticed your stomach acting up afterward, comment below. That's happened to me. You're not alone, and this small change can protect your comfort and your health. Now, we've talked about meats and dairy, but there's one more category that deserves your full attention. They look delicate, even fragile, but when it comes to nutrition, leafy greens are powerhouses. And sadly, they're also one of the easiest foods to mishandle. Let's dive into why greens absolutely must be kept cold, and what you lose when you don't. 6. Leafy greens: spinach, kale, lettuce. Let's finish our list with a food group that seems too fragile to store wrong, but in reality can become a hidden hazard when mistreated: leafy greens. One plate of fresh greens can be a silent weapon against your digestive health, especially for seniors whose stomachs and immune systems are far less forgiving. These vibrant leaves, spinach, kale, lettuce, are packed with folate, vitamin K, lutein, and other nutrients vital for maintaining bone strength, healthy circulation, and sharp vision. Yet from the moment they leave the farm, these delicate foods begin a race against time. If you leave them at room temperature or shove them unprotected into a crisper drawer without proper packaging, they'll start to wilt and lose their nutritional punch within hours. Worse still, moisture trapped between the leaves turns them into a breeding ground for E. coli, listeria, and other microbes that thrive in damp environments. I recall a patient, Mrs. Carter, an active 72-year-old, who loved her salads every lunchtime. She complained of sudden stomach cramps and low energy despite eating what she believed was a superfood. When I asked how she stored her greens, she confessed they sat loose in a plastic bag for days. By that point, pathogens had already multiplied, and the vitamins she was counting on, particularly folate for brain health and vitamin K for bone density, had largely degraded. What was supposed to nourish her body was doing the opposite, and because the leaves still looked okay, she never suspected the culprit until her digestive distress became too persistent to ignore. If your goal is to protect cognitive clarity, support heart health, and maintain youthful mobility, these are losses you can't afford. Fortunately, the remedy is straightforward. Keep your greens cold and dry. Store them in the crisper drawer at 38 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit, 3 to 4 degrees Celsius. Wrapped gently in a paper towel to absorb excess moisture, and placed in a perforated bag or a breathable container. This setup slows wilting, preserves antioxidants like lutein, and keeps bacteria at bay. I've seen the relief on my patients' faces when they learn how simple changes can restore both flavor and safety, transforming those sad, slimy leaves into vibrant, nourishing meals once again. If you've ever found your salad soggy, slimy, or lackluster, go ahead and comment "soggy greens" below. You're not alone, and this small tip can make a big difference. Now that we've uncovered the hidden pitfalls of refrigerating and failing to refrigerate the foods you think you know best, it's time to bring it all together. In our final segment, we'll reveal how a single fridge makeover can protect your health, boost your energy, and preserve the joy of eating well into your golden years. As we close this chapter on how a simple kitchen appliance can either protect or undermine your health, remember this hook. You might be hiding something in your fridge right now that seems healthy, but could be hurting you every single day. We've walked through the subtle dangers of refrigerating the wrong foods, from the hardened peanut butter that steals your independence and inflames your joints, to the moldy onions that drain away precious anti-inflammatory quercetin, to the chilled bananas that rob your brain of dopamine and catechins. And we've flipped the script on foods you must keep cold, like cooked meats that can harbor listeria, dairy products that become bacterial breeding grounds in mere hours, and leafy greens that wilt into soggy, pathogen-friendly traps. It might feel overwhelming, but the truth is that creating a fridge that works for you is simpler than you think. It starts with awareness, then moves to small, consistent habits that add up to big health payoffs. First, clear out everything you're storing on autopilot without thought. If you've ever hesitated before scooping your peanut butter or felt that odd smell from your lettuce, comment below, "I felt that too." You're not alone, and sharing your experience helps everyone learn. Next, reorganize. Dedicate one shelf for foods that thrive outside the cold: onions, bananas, peanut butter, so they never end up in a cold trap again. Use your pantry or a countertop fruit bowl with good airflow. Then, make a habit of labeling your leftovers with dates and storing them within 2 hours of cooking in shallow, sealed containers to stop bacteria in its tracks. Keep your fridge at or below 40 degrees Fahrenheit, 4 degrees Celsius, and reserve your crisper drawer for leafy greens wrapped in a paper towel inside a perforated bag. This combination slows wilting and stops moisture from turning your spinach into a petri dish. As for dairy, never leave it out while you prepare your meals. Trust the temperature gauge, not your nose, and treat every carton and container with kid gloves, because those proteins, fats, and vitamins that support your bones and brain are the same elements that fuel bacterial growth. And don't forget to cycle through perishables. If something has been in there for more than 4 days, even if it looks fine, it's simply not worth the risk. These steps may seem small, but they are your first line of defense against inflammation, digestive distress, cognitive fog, and the frustration of feeling sidelined by foods you once trusted. More than a set of rules, this is a mindset shift from passive storage to active stewardship of your health, recognizing that every choice, down to where you place an onion, matters. It's about reclaiming a sense of control in your kitchen, honoring the years of wisdom you've earned, and trusting that self-care can be as simple as a fridge makeover. If you're ready to make your refrigerator a tool for longevity instead of a silent adversary, hit the like button, subscribe for more evidence-based tips designed for seniors, and share this video with a friend or family member who deserves to eat safely and well. And if you've ever opened your fridge and thought, I wonder if this is right, or I never knew that, drop a comment right now. I'm changing today, so we can support each other on this journey. Your fridge is not your enemy, but misusing it can quietly undermine your well-being. Embrace these simple habits, and it will repay you with better digestion, steadier energy, clearer thinking, and the peace of mind that comes from knowing you've taken back control, one shelf at a time. Until next time, take care of your food, and it will take care of you.